us on Classic FM for a refreshing conversation on building, managing, and preserving wealth the smart way. From practical financial insights to expert perspectives that help you plan for today and secure tomorrow. This is a show that puts your financial future first.
A very good evening to you. Welcome to today's edition of Wealth Management and You. My name is Chico. Joining me in the studio, Mr. Ralph Emenyonu. Hi, Ralph.
Good evening, Chico. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Very good. Congratulations on your side winning the league.
Thank you, Chico.
You're welcome. Bravo, why are you laughing?
You need to see the look on Chico's face. That's why.
Oh, God. I've done the honorable thing.
Thank you.
And said, congratulations.
I said, thank you.
There you go. And that's all there is to it.
I should have looked at your face.
Our topic on wealth management and you today is involving your children in your wealth management journey.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is very important to do that, but let's look at why that is. Why should one involve what's from a financial expert's point of view? Why is this important?
All right. Okay. Thanks for that first question. So we're living in a complex world, right? And it's important I think it's the easiest way to look at it is that it's important so that the children are able to navigate this complex world. You said it some weeks ago behind the scenes, that how did we even get to, how did we even get to money?
Yes,
you're talking about the history and all that, the transition. So from trade by barter to coins.
That's right.
To notes. Now we're talking about digital. Right? We're even talking about contactless payments in stores abroad, right? So a lot has happened, evolution has happened, around that instrument. So
and continues to happen.
And it will continue to happen. So it's important, and this is something that isn't taught in schools, maybe a few schools in Nigeria today talks about how you grow money, financial literacy. What we learn mostly in school is how do you earn it, the skills. So when you go through school and then you come out of school, you have the skills and then you begin to earn money. How do you then grow it? How do you protect it? Ultimately, how do you pass it on?
How do you pass it on?
These are very important. Why do you spend when you spend? These are reasons we need to involve them, in certain decisions that we make. It's not necessarily because you want to leave assets for them, monetary assets, because there's some parents that will tell you that I'm not going to leave a dime. They have to work for their money.
Yeah.
But they also need to understand, what it is, what money is, what they can do with it, how they can keep it, how they can grow it, and ultimately how they can pass it on to the next generation. So it's very important that you let them go through the journey with you so that they can see the practical bit of it. And they can see what you do, learn from your mistakes, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a complex world. A lot is also going on in the digital space.
Yes.
A lot of fraud, a lot of scam, is happening along that space as well. So you need to let them be aware of what's going on, so that they can be better prepared, and they can take decisions confidently, thoughtfully.
Yes.
And like I said, ultimately pass things on to the next generation.
And I suppose that being the country that you live in has a bearing on this. I say that from the point of view of like in the UK, for instance, where they have a credit system that keeps very, very accurate and robust records, so that you are worth getting things like credit, for instance.
So your credit score is important,
you're going to have to pass some sort of credit test and credit score.
Absolutely.
And getting into debt is something that you should try to avoid. And if you have that mindset as a child growing up, then you will probably be able to navigate it better.
Absolutely.
And that will only be passed to you by your parents, really, and say, listen, don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you've got all these people that will entice you with things, the new iPhone, the new iPad, one new this, that, and they'll come and they'll tell you, buy now, pay later, and all those kind of things, zero interest. These entice young people with all this sort of things.
You need to teach them about debt as well.
Yeah.
You know, when to ask for debt, when shouldn't. You know, I think, there are people in Nigeria today that, to have a lavish wedding party, they take loans.
Yes.
You know.
Even birthdays.
You know, and when you find out, you're like, why would you do that? You know, because, and the reason, loan is not a bad thing, but you just need to ensure that the cost of taking it is covered in whatever you want to do with it. You know, and if you're that exposed already, how do you want to make?
I know someone, for instance, who said that that she observed her dad and her dad's brother. Her dad's brother ended up a billionaire many times over, right? Her dad, at some stage, was a millionaire, and they were doing the same thing. Her dad was a millionaire, but they both passed now, but remained sort of modest, you know. And she said the difference she saw was that her dad just was putting money in the bank. He was a believer in saving.
Yeah.
Whereas his brother was more, maybe his risk appetite was higher, you know. He'd speculate, stocks, property, this, that. He was always trying to get his money to do something.
To work for him.
Yes, whereas the other one was it was a lot more conservative.
So,
you know, does this have something to do with it?
Yes. So the community as well, the environment in which you grow up is also very important. For some, it could be from the parents. For some, it could be the sort of friends that you have. For some, it could be, you know, that environment. You know, for some people, maybe they didn't grow up with their parents. They grew up with an uncle that is wealthy and is an entrepreneur. But my point is, the community, the environment in which you also grow up, helps you to build that relationship with money, right, as a child. And I'll give you life examples. There was a lady that, you know, her parents got divorced. The basis for the divorce, right, was money, right? The argument was money. It was caused by
finances,
money, right?
Yes.
And what she picked from it was, because they don't spend on each other, they didn't get to like each other. So while she grew up, because she wanted people to then like her, she was just spending. Right?
Anybody in her sphere would get a piece of whatever she had.
Spending whatever comes her way, because that was how she learned, right? Interestingly, she's a money coach. So that's her story.
Wow.
She had to go for a therapy.
Yes.
You know, the second person is also a money coach. Now, her own story was her father lost his job, right, while she was growing up. And because of that, the father was very careful, cautious with the way he spends whatever comes his way.
Yes.
So when she eventually grew up and she found a job, she was very, very careful as well, because she saw money. She grew up seeing money from a scarcity point of view.
Yes.
You know, and research has also proven that children that grow up in a wealthy family, where they see both parents as entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, they take risk, compared to children that grow up in a low-income family, have a different perspective to money when they eventually grow up. The ones that are exposed to parents that take risk and are successful, you know, while they take the risk and wealthy, they tend to want to take risk very early, because that's the model that they've seen while they were growing up.
Yeah.
So that environment as well, is also very key. And that's why, you need to also try and engage your children, talk to them about what you've learned, mistakes that you've made, so that they don't get to make those mistakes and they can take on the learnings, the positives very quickly, so that they can be better off.
Yeah. At what stage do you think these type of conversations should start to happen?
I think you should start very early. I would say from the stage where the child begins to understand addition and subtraction in maths. I think you should start from that stage, and that's probably around 3 to 4 years, right? I think you should start at that stage.
Wow.
Now, the question is, what would you be talking to them about at that stage? Now, here's the curriculum. Between the age of 3 to 5, the child understands a bit about addition and subtraction. Help them to also understand the different denominations. Let them be able to identify it. This is 1 naira, this is 5 naira, this is 20 naira. Between the age of 3 to 5, that's what you try to impose on them. So
I'm not sure you want them to be talking 1 naira.
No.
You know the.
But I mean the different denominations, right? And then currencies.
We
as
used
well.
50 kobo.
Oh yeah, we did.
In uni.
We did. I think it was 20 kobo as well.
Yeah.
Even
10 kobo. 10 kobo had a palm tree on it or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you help them at that stage, to understand those things. Let them also understand why you go to work. Let them understand that certain things are free. There's certain things you need to pay for.
Yes.
And because you need to pay for those things, that's why you go to work. Right? So at that stage, those are the things that you need to, repeat in their ears and let them understand. Now, between the age of 6 to maybe about 8, you then begin to talk to them about needs and wants. Needs is what is important for you to survive.
Yeah.
Wants is not necessarily important for you to survive. So like your PlayStation, for instance. Needs, like your food. It's important. You need it to survive, right? So you need to also help them to differentiate between needs and wants. They need to also be able to, at least to an extent, differentiate between assets and liabilities, right? Assets, the ABC of money. Assets is what gives you money. Liabilities is what takes money away from
probably
you.
Appreciate.
Appreciate, yeah.
Liabilities would depreciate.
Yeah. So they can begin to, understand it from that perspective, right? Those are basics, that. And then simple budgets, simple budgeting to, I made this money, addition, subtraction, I spent this money and all of that.
Yes.
And then you can also talk to them about savings at that stage between the age of 6 to 8, about savings. If you get this money as gift, drop it here in your piggy bank. Save it, keep it, so that you can buy that toy that you love.
Yes.
If uncle gives you this money, drop it here, so
maybe even give them targets and rewards for meeting certain targets.
Exactly. And then between the age of 9 to maybe about 11, you can then begin to take them out on shopping. Let them understand what inflation is. Let them understand that, okay, you bought something last week, it was at this price. You're buying it this week, the price has changed. What's that? That's inflation. Let them also understand the difference between quantity and quality.
Supply and demand.
Yeah. So quantity and quality. You enter a store today, they're selling a pack of 6 pencils at this price. They're selling a pack of 12 pencils at this price. Why do you want to pick the one that is 12 pencils over the one that is 6 pencils? Perhaps the prices are not that different. They're not significant in terms of difference. So help them to understand all of that as well. At the age of 9 to 11 as well, I think you should also introduce the concept of pay yourself first. So even if uncle gives them money and they want to spend it immediately, keep something away first for yourself, then spend the rest. So let them also begin to understand, that concept, and then budgeting as well. You try to, again, emphasize on budgeting because that's a very critical tool. And then between the age of 12 to 13, you can then begin to introduce them to the key concepts like compounding, compounding.
I don't know what that is.
Compounding is when you save and you're earning interest on interest. So when you save so at that age, you can begin to introduce them to having a savings account in a bank, right? Or a money market fund. So that when they save, the interest on it, you don't take it out. Let that interest be added to your original capital and then reinvest it in that manner. So you're earning interest on interest. And that takes you faster to your destination on that journey, because you're not taking out your interest, you're not taking out your capital. So let them also understand that concept, by perhaps practically let them open an account, so that they can see it work. You can also begin to talk to them about those instruments as well: savings account, money market funds, investing as well. Talk to them about investing, talk to them about stocks, talk to them about bonds, teach them about those instruments at that age of 12, to about 14. Talk to them about setting long-term goals, at that age, so that they can be a bit more focused, and not looking at short-term at all time. Now, at the age of 14, what we talked about earlier in terms of debt, you can then begin to talk to them about debt, talk to them about managing businesses, at that age of 14 and above.
Yes.
You can begin to talk to them about inheritance, talk to them about digital assets, talk to them about the risk, that has to do with digital assets, the fraud, the scam. There's something called...
But you see, it's like when you mentioned compounding now, and I said I didn't know. Yes, it's a great thing to talk to them about, but you need to know it yourself in order to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? Yeah,
absolutely.
Because it's only what you know that you're going to be able to teach or to even talk about.
Absolutely.
So what would or should a parent do? Is this information available somewhere to be had, for parents who don't know, for instance?
So there are books that they can read, and then when they're also
Rich Dad,
talking
Poor
to
Dad.
those sort of, Psychology of Money and all of those books. And when they're also talking to their wealth advisors, there are things that they can ask, or they can also involve their children when they're talking to their wealth advisors, so that those concepts can be shared, and some schools do co-curricular activities, financial literacy and all that as well. It's something that they can easily register their kids to attend, and then begin to learn those things, at that age. I was going to talk about money mauling.
Money mauling.
Yeah. So
MAULING.
It's one of the dangers of digital exposure. And at the age of 14 and above, those kids they do a lot of things online. So it's also one of the things that you want to educate them about, so they're careful, and they don't get involved in it, because if it goes the wrong way, they might be liable. It's about people trying to move money around, and they might just, how kids get involved with strangers online. They might say, hey, there's this money, let's move it. And at that age as well, there could be peer pressure. They just want to get money and do certain things that you might not be aware of. And people can say, hey, you have a bank account, we can move this money, and then you get like 5%, or you get some cut and all that. If it goes the wrong way, they get liable. So that's also why parents need to pay attention when kids spend so much time online, to also be able to guide and monitor whatever they're doing. Tax is also one of the areas as well that, you can begin to teach them when they're 14 and above, So that's how you spread the curriculum to ensure that, they learn efficiently, and then they're able to be best prepared.
Wow. In case you just tuned in, this is Wealth Management and You. We've got Raphael Emenyonu in the studio with us, and we're discussing involving your children in your wealth management journey. We've spoken to the fact that it is important to start at a really young age with some elementary or rudimentary information about money and how to manage it and so on. And then the information that you discuss with them starts to get a little bit more complex as they get older and are able to understand it and appreciate it, such that when they actually start their working lives, they already have a good understanding of money, how to make money work for them,
absolutely,
and how to create wealth, essentially. Remember the saying, train a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. There are many of us who are naive about some of the workings of money and how money can be built. And then you also touched on, it's interesting that you touched on our experiences in life can fashion our relationship with money. I know someone, for instance, who says that when he was young, that money suffered him, but now, see, this money, I will suffer this money. So now this person has money, right? And the way they spend.
And that's even an important subject when they're at that age of 14 and above, because they're mature enough, you know, so you can share your experiences at that stage. You can involve them in the family budget. You can involve them in, you know, goals that are important to the family, and, you know, they can also contribute to it.
Yeah.
So you need to also share your experience as part of, you know, the training once they're 14 and above. You know, things like the debt that we talked about.
Yes.
The mentality of I earned it all, let me spend everything. You know, this life now on. You know, that's
I made this money, you didn't.
Yeah. So let me spend it all, and, you know, you forget to at least set something aside. Those sort of money mistakes. You know, the debt that, I mean, we spoke about debt as well. Peer pressure, you know, is another thing, you know, because Chico bought a Range Rover, I also want to buy a Range Rover, whether I can afford it or not. You know, so those sort of things are money mistakes that a lot of people have made, you know, and it's important that you let them know that, in fact, one of the ways.
And then a Range Rover, for instance, that's my favorite car by the way. A Range Rover, the minute you drive it off the shop floor, it has immediately started depreciating.
Can you imagine?
Immediately it's driven off that. So that first few inches or feet that you've rolled it, the value
starts coming down.
Just dropped.
So,
you know.
So, you know, so they need to understand that, you know, one of the first things that they need to, the first attitude they need to have to be financially independent is to ensure that they're able to manage peer pressure. So you have to talk to them about
it. All right, let's read this out. And if you have any contributions, questions at all about today's subjects, please be our guest and send those in via WhatsApp on 0704 1001 973. Let me read this. He says, "Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chico. I want to find out one thing which seems unclear to me from your wealthy invited expert. Actually, in my family, from my mother and my father biologically, we are 5 children. And we have another brother, which is from my mother, from another father. Now, my mother passed out of the world, and we want to do our new house document because we can't find the receipts my mom received when she was alive. Now we want to do a new receipt, but the problem is that the only man among us, which belongs to another father, claims the surname of my mom's family, which can become an advantage to him, but lost to we, the 5 children. Now we're planning not to put my father's name on the house receipt, which is the main children, and we don't want to put our mother's family name on the receipt. We just want it to balance by just putting the full name of my deceased mother without surname from the main children aside and from my mother's family side, because this has gotten confusing to me.
I lost.
Mother's family side, because it's going to be an advantage to the only one child from another father to our mother, and we don't trust him. He's so desperate. I just want to ask, is the law in support of this?
I think
my advice is you need a lawyer.
Yeah, I think they need to get it. They need to get a well-experienced lawyer to look at what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, this is, it's really complex what you're explaining, and doesn't tie in necessarily to what we're discussing today. Yes, it is related, seeing as we're talking about
involving your children.
You know, but please ensure that you get a good lawyer. And give the lawyer the facts so as you can take advice on how best to handle that situation. But yeah, back to the subject, Raph. So imagine a child. Let's look at this. A child that isn't ready, and then receives this huge amount of
inheritance.
They're probably going to just go crazy.
Yeah, that was the sudden wealth effect that we spoke about the other day.
Yes.
So the last time we had Mofoluke in the house, she had talked about living trust, and how you can use a living trust, you know, to manage such exposure. So what that tool will do for you is you try to set it up in a way that it gradually helps the child, you know, to manage the exposure to that inheritance. So you can say maybe when he gets to the age of 14, this is the X amounts that should be released to him. Maybe when he gets to the age of 18,
there's certain conditions you can stipulate.
Yes.
For instance, things that they can spend X amount on or not, and think that sort of thing.
Yes. So so that instrument, that tool can actually help you to manage the child's gradual exposure to that inheritance, so that it can last for as long as
for their own good.
For their own good, absolutely, absolutely. So that's
okay. Other than shows like this, where essentially one is seeking to educate and inform about wealth creation and wealth management, essentially, are there any other places parents can get some kind of help? And a lot of times when I say these things, I speak about people that I'm speaking mainly for the low to middle class people, because the upper class or the top end of the spectrum can afford wealth advisors who want to sit down and their business and their money is that person's only portfolio, and it's enough for that person to live large. But at the other end of the spectrum, they will probably be needing to have either sessions or one-on-ones where they go into somewhere. I know that in the UK, for instance, that you've got the Citizens Advice Bureau. You can go and sit down there and say blah blah blah. They'll give you all the information you need, or tell you where to go, even pay for you to have sessions with a financial advisor. That kind of help is available.
Okay.
But I don't know whether you have any such thing in our part of the world.
In Nigeria, I very much doubt. But I know that there are a few institutions that, again, like you mentioned, if you don't have the connections, because they have a cap, they have a certain number, like summer school, where they teach children about financial literacy and all sorts. But they have a cap. And again, if you don't have that connection, then you don't know anybody there, you might not be able to get through. So maybe if they can source the resources online, get a few tips online and then try to use that to educate the child.
There's always online AI.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe that would help, and then maybe we'll also look for people that can advocate that they should be part of the curriculum in schools, so that the children can also learn.
It's not a bad idea at all.
No, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Fantastic stuff. This has been Wealth Management and You, where our topic today has been involving your children in your wealth management journey. I hope you found it rewarding to listen to, and you can start today teaching your children about money. Wealth Management and You comes your way at 5:30 every Monday on Classic FM 97.3. Please join us next Monday with your children. We hope you had a fantastic Children's Day on the 27th and thought it was important to bring you something that had the children in mind. And
that's correct.
Hopefully you have you've gained insight into how best to pass the knowledge on to, and why it's important that you pass information on to your child about money from a very early age. Final word, Raph?
If you've missed any of our shows, please check out the videos on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Wealth Management and You, and you'll be able to see the videos to all the previous episodes. Thanks once again for joining.
Thank you for joining us on today's edition of Wealth Management and You. We hope the insights shared today help you take confident steps towards building and sustaining long-term financial success. Join us again next Monday from 5:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. for more engaging conversations around wealth and financial planning. Until then, stay informed, stay focused, and keep building your future. Good evening.